Hi, it's time to talk about Module 5 objectives. In this, we're going to speak to managing resources and the costs for the project. I may have spoke a little bit about this in the previous module, but here's where the rubber meets the road. In the Guido and Clemens text, it would be chapters 6 and 7. In 6, it focuses on resource utilization. In 7, it speaks to the cost, the budget, and a concept known as earned value. In managing project resources, we need to consider the resource types and the resource quantities. For example, I have a project which has a programming task which I believe is going to last a week. Do I put 2 people on it, or do I put 1 person on it? And if I put 1 person on it, do I include a relative novice, or do I include my heavyweight senior person on it? Well, if I put the senior person on it, there's no doubt that they can accomplish this in 5 days. They may even be able to get it done in 4 days. But let's say they make $100 an hour. That may not be cost effective. So I may put the novice on there, even though it'll take them 6 days or possibly 7 days, because they're only making $25 an hour. So those are the kinds of considerations that we need to do when we talk about resource types and resource quantities. We're also talking about managing around limited resources. For instance, let's say I need that programmer, but I don't have that expertise in-house because it's a different language than we have in our organization. I may need to go to a contracting company and get a consultant for a limited or defined period of time. So how would I manage around that? We're also going to talk about resource constraint planning. I have 5 people, but I've got 4 tasks and 2 of them are stuck on another project. What am I going to do now? It's the constraints that I have to consider when doing a planning around a project. Then we're going to talk about a concept called resource leveling. Oftentimes, when building a schedule, we will say that Sally needs to work 8 hours this day on this project, but we don't know that other activities within the same project have Sally working 2 or 3 more hours. So once I put the schedule together and take a look at, oh, what's happened here, we've got these activities that line up on October 31st, and Sally's in 3 of them, and she's showing 14 or 15 hours. Well, we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that we maximize Sally's time to 8 hours. So we have to level that out across those tasks and probably additional tasks that are related or have that successor-predecessor relationship to them. So we talk about resource-limited scheduling. That's a little bit of that. And then why resource leveling may be needed. I just gave you an example of why that might be. The text certainly goes into a little bit more detail. The managing project costs, we have estimated activity costs from the work breakdown structure, the network diagram, and the resource assignment matrix as input. We've got an idea of how much these resources are going to cost and what the duration of the activity. So we've got that. And then we can explain, we'll have a better idea why it's good practice to have that resource actually do, and I alluded to that in the last module, that it's good to have them provide their own estimates because they sort of get buy-in and ownership. And then we're going to aggregate all these estimated costs and roll them up, and that'll be our project budget. And that at the beginning of the project, that'll be called our budget at completion, which is a earned value term. I don't want to get into that a whole lot. I know the authors use some terms that are not used in the PMBOK, so I've put together a little cross-reference guide for you that I'll put out on the site, and they call it the total budgeted cost. PMBOK calls it the budget at completion. So we need to track these actual costs, because if we're running red, we need to explain to our management or the sponsor why it's going is costing more than what it's supposed to. So we may have to dip into what is known as management reserves, which should have been negotiated during the planning stage of this. Then we're going to talk about earned value. The concept of earned value is somewhat complex. We're not going to get into the weeds, but I just want you to keep in mind that earned value is a good tool, and it can actually give you a fairly accurate forecast to whether the project is going to be late or on time or on budget or have a cost overrun with just 5% of the project having been completed. Therefore, what I mean by that is I have data on 5% of the project, and I can do a fairly accurate forecast from that little bit of data using earned value. So that's earned value. It tracks project performance, the cost, and the schedule, and we'll get into that a little bit. The Module 5 assessments, module quiz, once again, totals 25 points. The group project, this is the last part of the group project, and then we have the chapter 6 to 7. I fully expect that module 5 may be the toughest module in terms of time and how many balls you have up in the air at one time. So we'll see how that goes for you guys. Like I said, this is a new online course. Your input, your involvement, your feedback is extremely important on the balance of this project or this course, and the changes that I may make for going forward. So that's it for now for Module 5. Thank you very much, and we'll talk about Module 6 in just a few minutes. Thanks. Bye.